Welcome to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
I'm Shannon Lawrence.
And I'm MB Partlow.
Quick content warning before we get started. This podcast may contain language and disturbing content, so enter at your own risk.
Hi. Howdy doody.
Yay! Look at that,
Another new one. Now every week I'm going to try to think of a new one.
It's howdy doody time.
For me and you-dy time.
I watched that, but what was that? It was like originally from
that was
50s?
Old. That predates me,
yeah. So. But somebody played it. I don't remember if it was Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon was...
Oh.
Speaking of which, I just learned that you can't do that on television. I watched it probably late 80s, which would have been right at the end of its run, because I think it went through 89.
I vaguely heard of it, but I don't think I ever saw it.
Well, so I looked it up. It started in 79. I had no idea it had been going for so long, because Nickelodeon was it. Like, they had the best stuff for a while. But I didn't even know Nickelodeon was that old. Like, when I found it, I feel like I thought it was a big new thing. So I don't know if it was a new show.
When did Nickelodeon start?
I don't know.
Huh.
But
I could probably sing you all of their old jingles, should you be interested. That's what my brain stores. I can't remember, to take my socks off before I get in the shower, but I can remember old TV jingles. So, last episode, I can't remember if it was last episode or a couple episodes ago, one where your cat was very vocal in the background. It made someone's dog bark.
Oh my God.
Heard the cat and was like, ran out the door barking. Where's the cat?
That's funny as hell.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Double Dare on Nickelodeon, watching that. You can't do it on television. I watched a lot of Nick at Night, because that's where I watched Patty Duke.
Yep.
And probably Mr. Ed, but I'd watch that younger, too, on, like, normal cable, because it would repeat. Hey Dude. Watched Hey Dude.
I have no idea what...
It was a dude ranch. It was ridiculous. It was great. So it was Hey Dude.
I do not remember it at all.
The thing is, I only remember two characters from that, and every time I saw them in something again, I was like, it's Dougie Lipson! I don't even know the guy's name, but he was very recognizable. Well, he's in Terminator 2.
Oh.
So, he's the friend of Edward Furlong. He's a redhead.
Right.
Right. He probably didn't stick out unless you'd been watching him on Hey Dude. I think he was on Hey Dude.
I know that you're speaking English, but it's going in one ear, tumbling around, coming out the other side.
Just fell right out the ear.
And last time I was here and we were recording, I had on long underwear because it was so fucking cold outside.
And like slippers.
Yeah. Today, I didn't even wear a jacket. I have my jacket because the sun will be down when I leave it. It'll be, 800 degrees colder. But
it went straight from negatives.
Yeah.
Which I understand that people who aren't from Colorado think it's probably negatives all the time in the winter here, but we actually do not get that cold. You get colder if you're somewhere on, say, the upper East Coast or the north of the country.
That's not far from where the wind chill was. I know that place.
Yeah. Like, we had stuff stop working. Well, something on my Jeep broke. I think that's partially my fault, though. But my husband's very nice, and he was all, well, I heard it pop, and it was when it was cold. And I'm like, yeah, you know why? Because 3 times recently, I don't know, I've been so in my head, 3 times recently, I started driving with the parking brake still on, and the parking brake broke. Now, 3 times shouldn't have been enough to really do it in, but it is an 04 or an 05. So it's not a baby.
Speaking of things breaking, so Joe had this big household task he was going to do, like a big household task. And he said, before I go do that, I'm going to, because I had told him the sink in the upstairs bathroom is draining really slow. So he's like, I'll go snake that out. No problem. Oh, thank you. That will be swell. He snaked it and then he plunged it, which is what he normally does. And the pipe under the sink split.
Oh, shit.
That's not fun.
Is it a plastic?
Yes.
Okay.
PVC?
Yeah.
So, man, he yelled for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, suddenly that became a much bigger chore.
And I was like, I said, is there anything I can do? No! All right, then. I'm going to go to the other end of the house and wait until you're done. So he went and got the thing and he fixed it, and now there's a leak. So our neighbor across the street is a plumber, so he does have a call into them to say, hey, I need you to come over and fucking fix the fucking sink.
Yeah.
So right now I can't use my bathroom sink.
I saw a reel and they were like, hey, look what this plumber told me. It like life hack or whatever bullshit they put on those things. It really wasn't a life hack because that's a totally different thing. But anyway, they did this whole image of holding a boiling pot of water over the sink and going to pour it. And then they stopped and put it down. Their finger came on the screen and shook, no, you know, and I was like, okay. And that was the whole video. I said, you didn't give us any fucking information. So then I went to the comments to see what was even going on. And then people are saying, oh yeah, no, you're not supposed to pour hot water down the sink because there's the PVC pipes now. Well, first of all, I've done it a billion times because I drain pasta over the sink and I'm not running water when I do it. And it hasn't burned a hole through there yet. So I think the PVC can take it. And then there are people arguing, wow, I work for a plumbing company and my husband is a plumber and at no point has he told me not to pour hot water down the sink. So, and then other people, well, and then other people are trying. I love the comments. But
I do sometimes, I try not to watch reels on Facebook because they really irritate me. Because you'll get one and it'll say, can you spot it? Or watch till the end. And you watch it and I'm like, well, that was a waste of 45 seconds of my life. Because there's no point. Nothing happens. And then you go to the comments and people are like, why do I watch these?
I don't have those pop up anymore, but I have cultivated it because I like the reels. On both my Instagram and my Facebook, I have cultivated it until I see. So on Facebook, I see some cute pet ones, but mostly that's my Instagram. Instagram is all pet ones. And then Facebook is dancing and now cooking.
Yep.
And ASMR. Sometimes though, what people post as ASMR, it just
makes me itchy.
I leave in a terrible, worse state than I was in before.
Yes.
But that's pretty much it. So then you see, I've been sharing the dancing ones because I love them.
Yes. That girl was so cute.
She was adorable.
And that big grin as she was dancing, it was just, you could tell she was so into and so enjoyed what she was doing.
Right. So, yeah, I have it all. It's all okay. It's all good. My reels are, although I did get annoyed because, you know, I clicked on one. It was the secret ingredient to hot cocoa, right? And then I click on it, and it's some mom who prides herself, I guess, on lying to her children, which is always the thing I was against. I understand. Believe me, folks, I understand. I wrote up a whole thing about it because I was so irritated. Because I always told them, sure, I put veggies and shit, you bet. And I told them they were in there and said, and they taste okay, don't they? And then they knew it wasn't the end of the world to eat vegetables. But this woman, her entire account is just crowing about how she's fooling her child. And it grossed me out about that. Not about, I get you, if you have finicky eaters, you do whatever the fuck you can.
Yes.
I had 2 finicky eaters, one for texture, one for flavor, right? Mm-hmm. And so I've been there. I get it. I did things, you know, but again, for me, it was more important to have, I found if I let them help me make things and they put the stuff in there, it was fine.
Well, I like to make twice baked potatoes. Mm-hmm. So I made them and they used to be Green Giant made creamed spinach. So that was great. That was pretty much it. Just you mash up the potato, mix in the creamed spinach, then throw in some cheese and that's, by the way, twice baked potatoes are how you use up leftovers.
I never used them for that.
So, I made them with the creamed spinach and the girl was like, girls, I have 2 of them, said, what's for dinner? And I said, they're Shrek potatoes. They loved them. To this day, can we have Shrek potatoes for dinner?
Well, and you did, the buffalo cauliflower and stuff, right? Didn't you?
Yes, I have done that. But I never lied about why. It was just like, it's cauliflower. It's roasted cauliflower with hot sauce on it.
And again, my issue is not with hiding stuff so much, even though personally for me, that wasn't something I wanted to do. My issue was with, I was like, what happens when this kid grows up and all of his moms, I don't remember, all of their moms' Facebook reels are basically how stupid they were because they fell for this shit. So anyway, I watched that one and it was putting sweet potato in hot chocolate, which I'm offended by. But I was more offended when another of hers I didn't like it, but I did go to the comments and that's why the algorithm picked it up. So she came up one more time and it was, I made pudding. And I'm like, okay, how'd you fuck that up? So see, I was intrigued and I had to go look at that. It wasn't pudding. It was mashed avocado with a splash of milk, cocoa, and agave nectar. Is what they were feeding the child is pudding. I said, that's it. I'm offended.
That's not pudding.
First of all,
It might be.
Tell your kid, do you want avocado pudding? And then they grow up liking that avocado pudding. See what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
The kid was probably barely speaking yet because the child is in her reels too, which somehow made it worse for me. And
when
I'm
they're
like,
little, you
that
can feed
age,
them anything.
Yes, exactly. That child is at the age where she could be saying, here's avocado pudding. And then the child would grow up liking it. They're not even, it's not even like a finicky 4-year-old.
This kid is going to get to a buffet and take a scoop of pudding and go, what the fuck is this? And people are going to be like,
what is this magic? I'm never going back.
Yeah, people are going to be like, that's pudding. No, pudding is lumpy and green.
Yeah, she annoyed me for some reason. And it might have been she's just that kind of mom. Now,
I will say I don't fault moms who, if your child has a lot of food sensitivities or food allergies, and you have to go to extremes to make something that resembles what everybody else in the fucking world is eating. You know, that I totally get, but just...
This kid is not old enough for that.
No. I remember there was a time, Lucy will be so delighted when she hears this. She would eat green beans right out of the can. I was so happy. It was a vegetable. And she thought they were delicious. I think she still likes green beans. To the best of my knowledge, she does not eat them cold out of the can anymore.
I had trouble transitioning from canned green beans to real green beans because the flavor is so different.
It's like, I never had it, but there's a huge difference between asparagus and canned asparagus.
Oh, yeah.
Which somebody told me they missed canned asparagus, and I was like, who hurt you? It's just the texture and the tinny flavor. I don't think all vegetables in a can taste tinny, but to me, asparagus is...
And I don't think I've ever had canned asparagus.
You don't need to.
Because my mom didn't do asparagus. So it was not a thing she did. She didn't do Brussels sprouts or asparagus. So I discovered them as an adult. And then I kind of liked them. And then I can make them myself. And then they're great. But I'm doing fresh. Yeah. So that probably helps.
We had a asparagus plant that grew in the side yard. Now, it didn't grow enough for 4 to 8 people, depending on how big the family was at that time. But when there was enough, Mom would go out and snap it off and bring it in and steam it or saute it or whatever. And everybody who wanted it got a taste because she was just like, you don't want it? That's great. The whole plate for me, that is absolutely okay.
What's funny is I think asparagus also grows in, I don't know, Texas or wherever. They grows wild, right? Like, yeah. And yet it's kind of an expensive vegetable, or it was when I was paying attention.
Yes, it can be when it's not in season.
It's like charging a crap ton for mint, which runs totally wild in so many places. Huh. Mm-hmm. Just find it weird. Supply and demand? Sure, I guess so.
Yes. Well, when mojitos got trendy.
As soon as anything gets trendy, then it's...
But I'm like, go to the Asian marketplace. You can get a bushel of mint for, 10 cents.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons I need to go there. I also need... There has to be something that's some sort of Mexican mart.
What are you looking for? There are.
Oh, I don't remember. I posted, it was another reel, see? Because food. It was some sort of magical, where was it from? Was it Argentinian or Brazilian? Anyway, so South American, not Mexico. Mm-hmm. And it just looked amazing. And I want it, but I can't tell you what it was. It was some sort of, say, fried breaded thing, not tortilla, thicker, and some sort of cheese that actually came in this shape between wax paper or something, and you just plop it between and then you cook it. And it wasn't egg. It looked like an omelet, but it wasn't.
Huh.
And I really want
if you see that reel again, send it to me.
I posted it sometime, but it was probably a couple weeks ago. It was probably 2 weeks ago. There's so many. I post too much.
Time has no meaning.
It really doesn't. That's Do you enjoy going to the grocery store? If so, this message is not for you. But if you're like me and procrastinate going to the store, Instacart is a fantastic option to ensure you no longer have to. Save yourself a trip and go through Instacart, where you can get a delivery through a personal shopper in as little as 1 hour. My experiences have been great so far, with my personal shopper texting me before substituting another product, letting me know when they were on their way to my house, and letting me know it had been delivered, all via text. If you click on our affiliate link in the show notes or on our website, you get free delivery on your first order over $35, and you help out our show at the same time. It's the perfect time to give it a try. All right, so I'm going first.
What you got good? What you got there, Shannon?
All right, so I'm doing the Fritzl case, and it's not funny at all.
Oh,
I'm going to give
sorry.
a trigger warning for incest and everything that involves. So I feel like that covers it. Okay, so on August 28th, 1984 in Amstetten, Lower Austria, didn't know there was a Lower Austria versus anything else, an 18-year-old girl named Elizabeth Fritzl went missing. She'd accepted a job in Linz as a waitress after going through waitressing training. It was interesting. It said that primary school was finished at 15, and then it sounds like you go through and you do individual training for whatever career you want to have, right? And they actually had waitressing training.
Nice.
So that was interesting to me. Elizabeth had a history. She had run away in 1983 and hidden out in Vienna with a friend, but they'd been located and the police had returned her to her parents' house. Nobody wanted to hear that her father had been molesting her since she was 11 years old in 1977. Her father was an electrical engineer who had taken out a permit to modify his basement at some point in the late 70s after his abuse of her had started. And I did see somewhere else that, so he started modifying that basement in the 70s, probably 78. And then in 83, he started doing some very specific modifications to it. In fact, he built an extension of the entire home to make an apartment from the sound of it, which they would rent out to tenants for extra income, though they didn't have access to the basement. And the permit was extension with basement.
So it's like Airbnb.
Sort of.
I mean, building an apartment to rent out.
Yeah.
For extra income. I'm like, yeah.
And there had to be, because there was a permit, there had to be inspections, and the inspections just found what was on the permit. They didn't know that it went far beyond that. When she disappeared, her mother went to the police to file a missing persons report. No progress was made in finding her, no clues left behind, and a letter was soon received, postmarked Brno. It was a letter in Elizabeth's handwriting stating that she didn't want to live with her family anymore and had decided to move in with a friend. It also stated she would leave the country if they tried to find her. Her father told everyone he assumed she joined a cult because he remembered her mentioning it once before, and the family, including her 6 remaining siblings, was forced to move forward without her, grieving their loss.
6 siblings?
Yeah.
Okay.
He chose the one. Likely confused and hurt, and there would be more letters in the coming days in Elizabeth's handwriting. Unbeknownst to the rest of the family, the daughter and sister they were mourning was below their feet and would be for 24 years.
Oh my God.
You see, when Joseph Fritzl modified the basement, he did it with the intention of keeping his daughter captive. For whatever reason, he had made his daughter a sex object, and I believe they had 4 daughters and 3 sons. I don't know. I don't know what their rank, oldest to youngest. I don't know if she was the oldest or the youngest or what.
He and his wife had 7 kids.
Yes, he and his wife had 7 kids. When she was on the brink of finally escaping him for that waitressing job in a nearby town, but still another town, he asked her to help him carry a door down into the basement. She held the door for him while he finished installing it, and once done, he put an ether-soaked rag over her face until she passed out, put her on the other side of that door, and locked her in. That door had actually been the last thing he needed to make her prison. Joseph told the family that the basement was his workspace, and he went down at 9 a.m. each morning to draw up plans for his projects. Now, I have a map that I'll post, but I might have to post it on Facebook because it's long and rectangular, and Instagram just doesn't do that.
No.
But, so there was when they first walked into, and actually it's called a cellar, but when they walked into the cellar, it was into a utility room, and then his office was on the other side of that. And I'll go more into beyond that
So
later.
was it this space he built on the other side of his office?
Yeah.
Okay.
With a hidden door. He was not to be disturbed. They weren't to bring him food or coffee. Didn't matter if somebody called. Nobody was to come into his office beyond that utility room. Period. He had even installed a refrigerator. I assume they'd seen him take the refrigerator down. It wasn't in his office, though. And there was a hot plate in his secret hidden compartment. So he had an excuse when he took a bunch of food down, and also when he stayed there all day and sometimes overnight.
Ugh.
Sometimes he wouldn't come up, and the wife just said, "Oh, he's such a hard worker." While he went down daily much of the time, there were days he would miss doing so. Unfortunately, every single time he went down there, he was raping his daughter. There was a complicated system of rooms and doors with Elizabeth hidden out of the way deep in the new basement so the rest of the family would not hear. In addition, she was handcuffed and sedated through much of her first few months in there. Later, tenants did occasionally complain of noises in that apartment, and he would tell them it was the pipes or it was, it's just the pipes. In addition, he told Elizabeth that the main door to her living space was electrified and that he would pipe gas into the room to kill her if she made too much noise or brought attention to herself. She had no way of knowing that wasn't true. Over the years, he repeatedly impregnated Elizabeth. In 1994, she had a fourth child, and he put her and the older children to work digging out more space by hand. It actually took them a couple years to just scoop the dirt out with their hands.
So it's not bad enough. He's imprisoned her and he's raping her.
And he's also beating her, by the way. And much worse will come out about what he was doing. But they were able to enlarge the space. Elizabeth would end up birthing a total of 7 children in her time in the basement. She did have at least one miscarriage before the first birth. There was one set of twins, but one of them, a son, died. Kirsten was born August 30th, 1988. Elizabeth was given a book on pregnancy and birthed the baby on her own. Locked in a filthy basement room, she had a pair of scissors to cut the cord, diapers, and a blanket. One article said it took him 10 days to check on them. So she did have that fridge. I assume she had some food to last it. February 1990 saw the birth of her son, Stefan. Or Stefan, I don't know, in Austria how that would be pronounced. August 1992 brought Lisa, but because the basement was filling up and he had not yet allowed for the extension or put them into slavery to make it, he removed Lisa at about 9 months old, and he had Elizabeth write a letter written to her family saying she could not care for her baby anymore. He placed her in a cardboard box and, quote, discovered her on the porch. Yeah. They went through the process of legally fostering and then adopting the baby, using the letter as proof of their story that they'd found the baby on their porch and that their missing daughter could not care for the kids on her own. So, they thought, well, these are the legal grandparents. So, yeah, of course they're going to let them. Joseph repeated this with the next few children. Monica in December 1994, Alexander, the twin, in 1997, and finally Felix, who was born in 2002. Felix remained with his mom, as Joseph would later state he didn't think his wife could care for another baby. The twin who had died, Michael, only lived a couple days, but had trouble breathing. Joseph refused to take him for medical help, and when he died, he burned him and scattered his ashes on the property. Elizabeth was a loving mom. She taught her kids to read and write and did what she could. The children had to remain quiet or risk discovery and therefore gassing, because that's what they thought would happen. Mm-hmm. But later it would be shown there were no gas hookups. There was nothing like that. But again, how the fuck was she supposed to know that? There was a TV, a radio, and a VCR. He brought them books and I guess maybe toys. It never explicitly said that, but one hopes. When the children or Elizabeth misbehaved or did something to irk him, he would turn off all electricity to the basement and refuse to bring them food for a while. On April 19th, 2008, 19-year-old Kirsten, Elizabeth's daughter, fell gravely ill, passing out. Elizabeth begged her father to get her medical help. I figure an infant that you don't have to deal with, maybe it's easier to let them die. Mm-hmm. But a 19-year-old that you've been around for 19 years, a lot harder. So, having already lost that one child due to her imprisonment, Elizabeth was a mess, right? This is her 19-year-old daughter. So Joseph acquiesced, allowing Elizabeth out just long enough to help him carry Kirsten upstairs to wait for an ambulance. Joseph was in his 70s by this time and couldn't do it on his own. Kirsten was suffering kidney failure and would have died had she not been taken to the hospital. It was very serious.
Good God.
Before Joseph went to the hospital, he had Elizabeth write another note. This one saying she dropped off Kirsten due to her illness. With such suspicious circumstances, the doctor and the authorities, the doctor was like, okay. Because she had no medical records whatsoever.
And she was 19, not 2.
Yeah. So the doctor's like, okay, wait. No.
And yeah, and so she's 19 years old, and there's no sign. She wouldn't know how to act.
Nope.
Because she's never seen a doctor or a dentist or anything.
She'd also never seen the light.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the authorities were called, and they did question Kirsten. It appears she just went mum. She didn't say anything. She didn't know what she was allowed to say. She was probably terrified what would happen to her if she said something. But they were still like, yeah, okay, something's going on. And again, I imagine, like you were saying, she was probably acting odd. I mean, they're one step off from being wild children. The only thing keeping them from that is a mother who finished school and did her best in a really shitty situation. Various experts were brought in, including a cult expert. Because remember, he'd said, she ran away with the cult. And the letters would address that. Like, give little details about it. And the cult expert felt the letters did not believably indicate a real cult, had never heard of the cult that was being talked about, and they were an expert on the area. Although I was like, are there a lot of cults in Austria? Is that Österreich? It was also felt that the letter read weird, and that he actually felt it had been dictated. In the meantime, Elizabeth was pleading with her father to let her go to the hospital to see their daughter, and he finally relented. I think he was just old and tired, and he was like, fuck it. So he actually allowed the two sons to come upstairs. Nowhere could I find how, first of all, he snuck the one girl out and had an ambulance come and nobody noticed. But I think by then the other siblings were gone except for her kids.
Right. But his wife was there.
How?
No.
So, and then he took Elizabeth to the hospital. And that was April 26th. It had been, 7 days since Kirsten got taken to the hospital. The doctor, who had previously been fed the same line as the police about Kirsten being dropped off by her mother with a note, called police to let them know Elizabeth was at the hospital. Police took both Elizabeth and Joseph in for questioning. Elizabeth at first kept her mouth shut. She was, again, afraid of what would happen.
Right.
He had her kids, until finally the police said, you never have to see your dad again. We will not make you ever see your dad again. We will keep everybody safe. So finally, after 24 fucking years of captivity and rape and being beaten and doing his labor for him and all of that, she let it all pour out. Not only had he been raping her, but he was forcing her to watch and reenact porn videos in front of their children. Because we already knew he was a sick fuck, but he was a really twisted sick fuck. They arrested Joseph that night around midnight. Probably about when she finished telling them the story. Authorities also took Elizabeth, all of her kids and her mom into care. And ultimately they ended up in a guarded house with gates and bodyguards and all of this. I was a little surprised, and I feel like since he would have been in custody, that was more for probably press and stuff, but it didn't say that. But anyway, they were taken in. They were all given therapy, including her mother, because her mother just discovered the daughter was alive the whole fucking time.
Living beneath her feet.
Yes, and being brutalized. And they're still.
Now, it could have been, maybe they thought there was a possibility that this cult thing he was talking about had a shred of truth.
Well, they were getting letters. It was in her writing.
Yeah.
You're not going to assume your husband. I'm saying all this as having had a lot of conflicting feelings about her mother, and I still think she must have been the dumbest person in the world. Because he supposedly took down a Christmas tree at one point, and he had to have moved in extra beds. How did he... Was she gone? Was she volunteering her time? There were a billion fucking kids for a while. So I don't get it, but it's victim blaming, so I'm not going to go further into it. But believe me, I've had a lot of thoughts because I can't.
She was a victim, but she was not the victim.
No. So all were given therapy and had to adjust to not only living with siblings they didn't know they had and who had gotten a very different life from them because they got to go to school and have a normal life, but to seeing light, to fresh air, to other people, to life in general, to vehicles, to fucking everything.
Grocery stores, libraries.
It's like Encino Man coming out, except they'd seen it on TV, I'm sure, but still. There were no windows in the space where they were held captive. Not even when it was all underground. They had never, ever seen the sun. Not one fucking time in their lives, except on the TV. Not only that, but the ceiling had been only 5 foot, 8.5 inches. That's not a tall
That's
ceiling.
low.
And if any of them, she was down there with 2 teenage boys, were taller than 5'8", you know, when police, so they were stooped over. They were describing these poor, here you have their healthy siblings, and you have these 3. I'm sure there would be a lot of anger over, well, why did you get to go upstairs?
Right.
And we stayed down there. Why is that? But then the other ones never got their mom for like 9 months.
Right.
He waited till she weaned them each time, which, yay for him, I guess. But they were stooped over. They were pale.
Well, yeah.
So just imagine these 6 standing next to each other with 3 of them stooped and just...
They had to be vitamin deficient?
Yeah. So when police searched the basement with directions from Yosef, he was like, all right, there's 2 entries. One older door had become inoperable and it was super heavy. I don't remember how heavy. It was a big metal door. But there was a hidden door behind a shelf that was operated with a code instead of a keyed lock. Some places said it had a remote control. He was an electrical engineer. I wouldn't doubt it. Inside this space was a warren of rooms dug out far beyond what had been specified on permits, going under the yard. There was a bathroom with a sink, shower, and toilet. There were also 2 bedrooms, and I guess by the end there were 2 beds in each room. And a general living area. A single tube provided ventilation to the space, which went all the way under the garden. Genetic testing proved Yosef was the father of the children, but his defense tried to say it wasn't rape. It was consensual. He also tried to claim at one point it was alcohol controlling him, and they were able to determine at no point did he come across as an alcoholic. Luckily, no one bought this, and Yosef was given life in prison. His trial only lasted 4 days, though it was considered the trial of the century for the area because they were astounded by this person. And his convictions included rape, incest, false imprisonment, enslavement, and homicide for the twin that died. He pled guilty to everything but homicide, which was for Michael, and grievous assault, which was for threatening to gas them. He had been a respected member of the community, really respected. He owned multiple properties. So the revelation that he was a pedophile shocked the community. It was a community of about 22,000 people.
Okay,
which
that's not very
huge.
big.
No. He became known as the Monster of Amstetten, as well as Father of Darkness. That was from Italian papers. And has been kept in a high-security psychiatric ward near Vienna. He has never expressed any regret whatsoever for what he did to his daughter and their children. Even after his wife divorced him, which was right away. She filed that shit, like... He continued to send her love letters. Yeah, could you imagine being her and getting those?
I would burn them. I wouldn't even open them.
It has come out that his mother badly abused him after his father left them when Yosef was 4. He got revenge on her in her old age, and it said that she died in his attic in 1980, where he'd been keeping her captive. While no one had been able to discover for sure how long she was up there, newspapers did report that it might have been around 20 years. She had moved in with them when she could no longer live on her own. Then he had claimed she died, bricked up the attic window, and locked her up there. So this wasn't even the first time he did this. Sounds like she deserved it if what he said was true. And psychiatrists did feel it was true. He had also been accused of rape and attempted rape in 1967. He had broken into a nurse's home, held a knife to her throat, and raped her. He served time for it, but Austrian law dictates that records be expunged after 15 years, after time served. So guess what? None of us was even on the record anymore. He stated in an interview, quote, "I was born for rape, and despite this, I still held back for a long time." To his lawyer, he said, quote, "He's so foul. The urge to have sex with Elizabeth grew stronger and stronger." And, quote, "Being able to taste the forbidden fruit was too strong. It was like an addiction." And finally, quote, "I could have behaved a lot worse than locking up my daughter."
Ew.
Yeah, he's terrible. He's
the worst.
So fucking reprehensible.
Ugh.
He does not see anything wrong with what he did. At all. It's all, oh, poor me. I was a victim, and so nothing I did was wrong. Gross. He was found to have severe combined personality disorder. And basically what that meant is he had the 3 different types of schizophrenia, I assume. Borderline, schizotypal, and schizoid. And a sexual disorder, obviously, which is why he was put in a psychiatric facility. But again, it was a it was a serious one. This wasn't a vacation.
Yeah.
It was high security.
A state well, here it would be a state psychiatric facility. Those are not
great.
It's not like a spa experience.
Right. So good.
Yeah.
He is up for parole this year, actually, because he's finally being moved to a regular prison from the psychiatric facility, and he's already served time then.
Right.
It is said that he's suffering dementia, so probably not around for much longer.
No, whatever he's suffering, it's not enough.
It's not enough. No. How do you justify what you did? And why her? Like, how many times do you think she's wondered that with all her fucking siblings? Why me?
Yeah. I wonder what the relationship is between the siblings now.
I could not find anything.
Because
the siblings have been left completely out of it, except the one that testified that he had been beaten.
But her and her siblings and her children,
who are her siblings,
yes, but both groups, it's just how horrific.
Yeah. Elizabeth was able to pre-record her testimony. They stuck to the you do not have to see your father. So it was something like 11 hours of testimony.
Oh my God.
Being questioned by, because they also had experts questioning her on the tape and stuff like that. But again, not in front of a court. And one of her brothers testified he'd been abused. So as far as I can tell, he's the only one who came out and supported her. But I just don't know. There was no mention whatsoever of her other siblings. Just not there. So I don't know if that's ethics. Actual ethical reporting, perhaps. I don't know. But it appears her mother, other siblings, and children did not testify. Nobody else testified. Elizabeth and her kids have changed their names with the help of the government and authorities. They were all living together on last reports, despite her kids being adults. I think the oldest one is 33. She came out of that basement with white hair.
Well, she was how old when she went in?
18. 24 years. Yeah. Only the three raised upstairs by their grandmother know anything about surviving in society. That's why, as grown-ass adults, they came out of there. So they've all kind of lived together as they try and figure out how to live this life. And I did find some articles that they used their original names. They did not put out their...
Right. Good.
Yes, exactly. They are not allowed to refer to where they have moved. It's called Village X and anything about them. But it talked about their aspirations, didn't say they'd gotten anywhere yet, but it hasn't been that long, So
when did they come?
One of them was at 2008.
Wow.
And one of them was in school because they had been young enough, they were still in school.
Right.
And one of them was heading into college and stuff like that. So they're getting there, but God, that has to be hard. So hard.
And how do you, after he forced their mother to just have sex in front of the children.
In general, not even looking at what else.
How can they
have healthy relationships?
Yeah, how can they form relationships? Even friendships, not necessarily love relationships, but friendships. Because part of friendship is getting to know the other person. And, hey, I grew up here. Oh, well, I grew up there. And, oh, we both grew up in a small town. And you can't.
They can't. And I doubt they're going to be like, well,
so
I grew up in a dungeon.
Yeah, for safety, they can't have that conversation.
No.
Wow.
I will say it sounds like the people in their village know who they are and are very supportive and very understanding of the fact that they don't know anything. That's good. They're trying to, so if they made friends in that town, chances are, fortunately or unfortunately, they do know their background. Because it was the trial of the century. It's all over the papers.
Well, on the one hand, you don't want it would deeply disturb me because you don't want everybody knowing your business.
Right.
On the other hand, it would be freeing knowing.
Not having to
explain
basically come out over and over and over.
Yeah, you don't have to keep coming out and you don't have to lie about it. You don't have to hide it.
Yeah. Oh. But you'd have to get to the point where they knew you, not what they saw of you in the papers. There were some problems with their acclimation at first. Upstairs and downstairs kids had trouble bonding and recognizing each other as siblings, clearly. And again, there would be that, why the fuck did you get to get out?
Yeah.
And I had to live in a hole. And Elizabeth did have significant trouble trusting her mom. She had a hard time believing her mom had no idea any of this was happening and understanding how the fuck that's possible, but they have reached a better place now.
Well, we have a hard time with it.
Yeah.
And we weren't involved.
I would never fully be able to trust her.
No.
And second of all, even if you knew that she didn't know about it, this is the person who was supposed to protect you.
Mm-hmm.
And before she was in that basement, she was being raped for 7 fucking years by him.
Yeah.
In a house with so many people.
How can that go?
Nobody saw that?
Yeah.
Nobody heard that in the late at
Nobody
night.
suspected that?
How, I mean, everything reads like it was an empty house, and it wasn't. How did he pull this off? I feel like things had to have been heard, and somebody just went, nah.
Well,
Looked the other way or thought that can't be what I think it is, and they didn't look it up.
Right. I remember we've talked about this before in the context of something happens and it's revealed that the husband of a couple is a serial killer or whatever. And how did the wife not know about it? And I've talked to a friend of ours about it. He's a psychologist. However, it wasn't happening. First of all, it wasn't happening to the woman's children, her own children. And second of all, it wasn't happening in the living space of their house.
Yeah.
Sometimes there was a dugout space or it was in the garage or whatever, but it wasn't happening down the hallway.
Well, in all his time missing again, she just took that as, yes, he's a hard worker. And he actually was successful in his job and again, well respected in the town. So I guess you could believe it's just... It wasn't quite in the era where a wife could have justifiably been looking the other way and not questioning her husband. The relationship sounds so much more old-fashioned than it necessarily has a right to be. But maybe it was different in this town in Austria. I don't know. Maybe it was back in that time.
Although there are people today who have those kinds of relationships.
Yeah. So it could have been, you don't question your husband. I could not find if he had beaten her. I couldn't find anything about that. I could not find how he treated, because again, only one sibling stepped forward and said, yeah, he was a bit of a trash person to me, but he only really recalled being beaten when he was younger. So I don't know. A whole chunk of the story is missing because Rosemarie the mom, never granted interviews, never talked about it. She just went mum. She didn't even have to testify against. Although, what would she testify? I didn't know what he was doing. I thought he was working. But he took what irritated me is the whole Christmas tree thing was his lawyer saying he was a decent guy. He took them a Christmas tree down. He was a decent guy. He took them books.
You mean the people he had imprisoned in a hole in the ground?
Yeah. So I was like, fuck you, lawyer. But I know that's their job. But still, I was like, honestly, fuck you for fishing that hard. So, yeah, just the whole thing. I would have trouble having a relationship with my mother, you bet.
Yeah.
I would have trouble having a relationship with my siblings who went untouched.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There'd be so much resentment, whether you wanted it or not.
Right.
Whether you could rationally say, okay, I know it's his fault. None of it is her sibling's fault, but it would still be hard to establish.
Right. Why me?
Yeah.
Why not you? What did I do that was so wrong?
Did you say it was or was not ever stated what her birth order was?
Never. I couldn't find, again, it was like there was a rule not to put anything about the siblings in the news or something.
So she could have been the oldest.
But I don't think she was, because I think the others are older than her.
Okay,
I think at least some of them were out.
So she could have been the youngest, and then they would have been either out of the house or about to be out of the house.
Yeah. Which could, yeah. But then again, you got to look at your older siblings and say, why didn't you help me? Why didn't you defend me? Why didn't you look? Yeah. So no matter how you look at it, it would be very hard.
Yes.
And I did not see anything about whether she has a relationship with her siblings. Only with her children and her mom. But, to leave this on a happier note, Elizabeth and her bodyguard ended up falling in love.
Aww.
And so, also in last reports, they were living together with it. He had moved in with the kids and everything, and they have a relationship. She had learned to drive a car.
Nice.
She had discovered jeans. She enjoyed going out shopping sometimes. It was like little things that everybody takes for granted who didn't get kidnapped and buried in the family's basement for 24 years. So she started exploring life and having a life. And I mean, she was 18. So she had seen life before, which probably really helped her kids.
Yes.
When she was able to probably tell them stories and,
explain the things they were seeing on the TV.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a very sad story. It's really foul. It's one of the foulest things I think I've ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, so I'm just sorry that nobody kicked him till he was dead.
Me too. He seems to have been treated pretty respectfully. He was allowed to cover his face in front of the press.
Yeah.
He got more privacy than he ever granted her.
And it was probably because protecting his privacy protected their privacy.
Yeah. Because one of the
if
things that annoyed me about him too is he also tried to, with all the spins they tried to put on it, he also tried to spin it well. She had stopped behaving. I didn't like how she was behaving. She was getting in trouble more. Okay, well, she was a teenager. And so I had to lock her up to keep her safe. Fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
There's no safety in being raped by your father and beaten by your father and humiliated in front of your children with your father.
No.
So, no. Gross. I'm looking forward to hearing he's died.
Yeah.
Frankly. Sources, Mysteries Unsolved, Wikipedia, All That's Interesting, The Focus, and The Cinemaholic, funnily enough, had a pretty good article on it because there was a TV movie or something.
Of course. There's a TV movie made about everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, guess there wasn't a lot of implied stuff if it was a TV movie, though, considering the content. Unless it was made for a channel that didn't have to stick to those.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yuck.
Yeah.
It's like all over again. All right, I'm going to talk about something else. I got to talk about something else. This is a mystery.
Yay.
There are dead people. There are a lot of dead people. But to the best of my knowledge, there's no incest or rape. Yeah. So, I'm going to talk about Roopkund.
Roopkund.
I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, so just go with it. Just go with me here. It's the Lake of Skeletons. So in 1942, a forest ranger in the Himalayas. So first of all, I don't associate Himalayas with forest rangers. I just don't.
Oh.
It's a kind of a, you read it and you go, huh. And then you're like, well, I guess it does make sense.
Yeah.
That they would have,
But they're always a very American thing when we hear it. Maybe Canadian. I don't even hear about forest rangers and say Scotland, even though there must be.
Or something. They just probably call them something different. They must. Anyway, forest ranger, Himalayas. He happens across a small glacial lake. It's a very lovely spot. It's a very pretty lake. So that in itself isn't odd, but the sheer amount of human bones scattered throughout it were. So
it caught his attention a little.
A little bit. And the lower the lake level, the more bones were revealed. Which I mean, in as much as
like Lake Mead.
Yes.
Which I'm still following.
Have they found anything else lately?
I don't know. I haven't seen anything.
They're like, we're just not fucking telling you anymore.
We're not going to tell you how many more barrels. We're done.
So it was theorized that a mass death occurred, possibly due to a natural event. So some bones have been removed and tested, and it's thought that the skeletons of at least 800 people reside in the lake, which is at about 16,500 feet altitude. So that's twice as high as that's more than twice as high as we are.
Yeah.
Because we're at
2,000 feet over Pikes Peak.
Yeah. So anyway, they've tested approximately 38 skeletons in 2003. And the bones have come from very diverse groups of people. 23 are the same as modern South Asians, specifically Indians. 14 match the Eastern Mediterranean, specifically Cretans and Greeks. 1 matched Southeast Asian. In addition, the bones date from different times. So from the year 800 to the year 1800, that's a big fucking span. But this is a lot of bones. And it's like, why are they all here?
Which says not mass die-off or multiple mass die-offs.
Right.
Yeah.
The bones are mostly from young adults, which is, again, odd to me. Both male and female. Some have well-preserved skin. Others are clean and bleached. There are also artifacts like spearheads and leather clothing and rings. I imagine probably other jewelry as well. The area is popular with hikers and long-distance trekkers. And yet no one has reported on this before.
Maybe they thought they were whatever their equivalent of deer are. I don't know.
Well, through the years... Okay, here's the sick thing. Through the years, the hikers have stolen bones and generally disturbed them. But it's like we've reported on crime scenes in the early 1900s and before.
They just traipse through a house where a family has been slaughtered.
And take souvenirs.
Yeah, including evidence sometimes. Yeah. Oh, look at this clump of scalp hair.
So that's the thing. If they found these bones, they had no way of knowing this is from the year 800, killing. Or this is from last week. Yeah. Okay, not last week, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is this from a murder that is currently being investigated?
Curiously, on the young adult, at the time a lot of these bones are from, maybe that's about where they were living to. Maybe they weren't living that long of lives.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know.
So anyway, local authorities are looking into ways to protect the site and keep the bones and artifacts from disappearing. Who fucking steals human bones?
Oh, beautiful.
I know, but...
Everybody who's been to Egypt.
Okay, the British.
Yeah.
Okay, you got me there.
You're not wrong.
So the locals have passed down oral histories about a pilgrimage trail for Nanda Devi, which is a manifestation of Parvati, a Hindu goddess. And my apologies to anybody if I am mispronouncing these. It's my ignorance. I am not intending any insult. So one legend says that a king angered Nanda Devi, who sent drought to his kingdom. So he took a pilgrimage toward Nanda Devi, bringing along an entire entourage. So here's the thing. If you're on a pilgrimage, it is supposed to be difficult. It's supposed to be a hardship. You're supposed to be proving something. When you bring in entourage, it means you're a douchebag.
Yes, it does.
You're not taking it seriously. Well, and apparently the goddess was just made angrier by this. And so she sent a hailstorm to kill him and all those with him. But here's the thing. Many of the skulls do show fractures, which could indicate blunt force trauma like massive hail at high altitude. I have no idea how... Is hail bigger at higher altitude?
I mean, we get some big ass hail here.
We do, but I don't know if it's bigger on top of Pikes Peak than it is down. I just don't know.
I feel like it could be, because if you think about this big ice ball formed, and then it's coming down, and maybe as it gets lower and warmer, it's melting rapid. I don't know.
Or
I'm just pulling that out of my ass, honestly. But I've been pelted by bruising hail before when I had to run to get one of my kids in a hailstorm.
Scientists do actually believe that many of the victims were those traveling over the pass who hit dangerous weather and died of blunt force trauma, exposure, and hypothermia, and their bodies rolled down the hillside and settled in the lake. There was the very real risk of avalanches and rock slides that would also have carried both the living and the dead down the slope.
Just picturing Mount Everest, and there's just bodies on the slope, and an avalanche comes, and you fall down with those bodies around you. Just think about the joy of that. I wonder if that ever happens on
I'm not.
Mount Everest with all those bodies. Like, does it just not get avalanches where they are? Because a lot of them have been there for decades, right? Decades.
I don't know.
In the same spot.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just an aside I get.
As you're climbing the trail.
You turn left at the yellow jacket. I don't know.
Yeah, you turn left at the guy in the blue jacket. Yeah. He's been there for 40 years.
So crazy that if you climb a mountain, you just take it for granted that... we even, with all the mountain stuff here, and all it's still not as high as that, or as necessarily, barren, isolated?
Yes.
Still, it's crazy to me.
So big baffling mystery. I said that wrong. The big mystery baffling scientists is why people from so far away who would not have been Hindu would have been trekking in the area. So remember, we're talking about the Himalayas. So specifically, those Mediterranean genes are what's throwing everybody. It's like, how the fuck did they get here?
Yeah.
They've been trying to figure out if perhaps they shared common ancestors with people who eventually settled in the Middle East Jesus, I can't read. In the Eastern Mediterranean. Slightly different. I saw an M. I saw the word Eastern.
Middle Eastern.
It just flowed out like so much crap from my brain. One of the theories is that some of the travelers were merchants or even an army. And again, that they were caught in some kind of storm that obliterated the group, or that there was an epidemic, or it was just simply a burial ground for some locals. Oh my God, what's the thing? Dyatlov Pass?
Dyatlov.
Pass. Nikki somewhere is screaming that I mispronounced it. She can tell. She can tell. Damn it, Mom! But maybe something
Freaky happened like that.
There's no history of this being a major trade route, but there is still the Nanda Devi Jat pilgrimage that happens every 12 years and appears to have been in existence for a very, very long time. So scientists hope to form an expedition to get tissue samples or see if there are artifacts that might give them more clues. So you're thinking, well, okay, you've got, how many people did I say are in here? 800. They think there are 800 people. So you're thinking, why don't they just lean in, scoop some out, and take them home and test them? Well, here's the thing. Remember how high up this is. There's crazy weather and apparently giant mutant hail. And the positioning of the lake make it hard to get any work done because, bonus, the lake is frozen 11 months of the year.
All right. So 1 month you can scramble up there and get your shit done, but it takes you that long to get up there.
So you'd have to start before it thawed. Then you'd have to be there and be able to survive there long enough to wait for it to thaw enough for you to get the bones.
So it has to be a lot more humid there because I have a whole thing. I have this whole history. Pikes Peak is 14,000 whatever because it's changed. But it's a 14er. Yes. And it doesn't have snow on it year round, so that people who don't live here know this. Most of our 14ers don't necessarily have snow on them year round.
Occasionally it does, but not regularly.
It would have to be a weird year. And so, I know that people living at lower elevations thought I was crazy when I asked why their 2,000-foot mountain had snow on it in the middle of July. And they were like, it's a mountain. And I was like, I live at 6,500 feet. I don't live in snow year round. In fact, we get very little snow compared to the north and the northeast and lots of other places. So it just crazy that that's frozen 11 months out of the year. So they have very different weather and a setup and the humidity than we do. But yeah, it's kind of mind blowing that it's obviously very different. So.
Well, and you have to think, okay, it's frozen 11 months out of the year, but surely if they went up and it had just started to freeze over,
right? You could break. It's not
through
just a thick sheet of ice,
right? But it's so isolated, and it's not urgent. I was going to say important. That's not the word I wanted. It's not urgent,
right?
It's not.
This isn't a current serial killer spree. It's not anything that poses a danger to people. So. There's no...
But there are people who are curious, because it is a curious thing. So...
Especially with the whole Mediterranean genes.
So somebody's going to have to get the money. Somebody rich is going to have to be curious. Perhaps we could interest Elon Musk.
Would you like to dig these up?
Would you like to dig these up and test them? Or let someone else? Because that's what he...
No, he'd do something unethical. He'd probably just make a museum and
he'd make
furniture.
He doesn't actually do the work. He waits till the company is up and running, then he buys it. And then...
At least Twitter. But
well, he didn't invent the Tesla.
No. I don't know. I've
seen that.
I haven't looked into him. I haven't. I don't care enough.
I was going to say that's probably for the best.
Yeah.
I saw somebody totally unrelated to this topic, but I haven't researched that. Somebody posted something the other day and I was outraged, justifiably indignant. And I thought, I'm going to post that so everyone knows about it. And then I thought to myself, I'm not going to post that because I am not indignant enough to do the research to see if this is in fact 100% correct. And since it's kind of inflammatory, I suspect it might not be. So
yeah, there's a lot of shit I'm like,
I will just take my finger off the share button and
yeah,
stick it back up my nose where it goes.
Learned that lesson a decade ago about posting about stuff and somebody coming to call you on it.
And somebody says, I don't want to be a dick, but did you know? And you're like, I did not know that. Thank you very much. And you take it down or fix it or whatever.
Yeah. And I've seen too many people post stuff that I know isn't true.
Yep.
And there's always that debate. Is it worth telling them that it's not true?
Yes.
Or do I just scroll along and let them continue misinforming people, but at least don't pick a fight on social media?
And I would say, in my mind, there's an age cutoff. If somebody is over, say, 75, I'm not going to argue with them.
Anyway.
I'm not going to correct them unless it's a very simple, no, that wasn't my mother. That was Joe's mother. Or,
Yeah.
But, yeah, no.
Social media. Such a joy.
It's a delight.
Misinformation. So great.
It is.
The best thing ever. All right, guys.
It truly is.
Thank you for tuning in. Did you do your sources?
No, I did not. The sources were. Did you do your sources?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Livescience.com, nature.com, and Wikipedia, who I donate to every year.
Yay. I donated last year. I haven't donated this year yet.
Oh, no, I think I donated twice last year because they came back and asked a second time. And we were like, excuse me. And I was like, all right, I'll give you. I mean, I'm not giving them oodles of money, but
a few bucks goes a long way if a lot of people do it.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you for listening.
Yes, we will talk to you next week. Bye. Bye. Thank you for listening to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
Find us on Facebook and Instagram or at our website, mysteriesmonstersmayhem.com.
Please like, rate, and review, follow, and share wherever your favorite podcasts are downloaded.
Thank you for listening and supporting our podcast. We'll be back next week with more shenanigans.